Brother Marcus, I want to get your opinion on this next story. Brian Flores is suing the NFL. Brother Mac, you dropped that story to us yesterday, and I have a clip of it. Do you want to talk about it before I drum the clip, or do you want me to just drop the clip?
No, please drop the clip and know that the story was actually relayed to me by our good friend, Dr. Lydia Patton. She's like, Dr. Mac, you got to talk about this. You and Ben got to talk about this. Okay, Dr. Patton, here we go.
Here we go. Dwayne, run the clip so we can get up to date on what's happening with this lawsuit.
As sports fans across the land salute a retiring legend of football, the league he exits has just been slapped with a lawsuit containing allegations that, if proved, could shake the very foundation of the NFL and some of its most storied franchises. The accusation on the first day of Black History Month: systemic racism in the NFL, and specifically racism in hiring. The target, the NFL, the Miami Dolphins, the Denver Broncos, and the New York Giants, plus what the suit calls John Doe teams, number 1 to 29. In other words, all of them, indicating he hopes others will join to form a class action suit. The man filing it, the former head coach of the Dolphins, Brian Flores. The suit says Mr. Flores has determined that the only way to effectuate real change is through the courts, where the NFL's conduct can be judged by a jury of Mr. Flores' peers, a judgment that is long overdue. The 58-page document filed late this afternoon in the Southern District of New York, chock full of explosive allegations. Among them, discrimination in Coach Flores' interview process with the Broncos and the Giants, and in his termination from the Dolphins just last month. Further, he says the Miami owner, Stephen Ross, wanted him to lose games on purpose so that the Dolphins could get the number 1 draft pick. That owner, Ross, offered Coach Flores $100,000 per loss. But Flores says as his team instead racked up wins late in the 19 season, the Dolphins general manager told him the owner's mad that the team is winning. The Dolphins released a statement denying the allegations. Flores alleges the Giants scheduled a sham interview with him to comply with what's known as the Rooney Rule, a requirement that teams interview minority candidates for big jobs. Coach Brian Flores released his own statement saying, "In making the decision to file the class action complaint today, I understand that I may be risking coaching the game that I love, and that has done so much for my family and me. My sincere hope is that by standing up against systemic racism in the NFL, others will join me to ensure that positive change is made for generations to come."
Now, before we discuss, I have to just pause and give Shepard Smith some credit. That was a phenomenal summary of everything that's going on. And he's formerly of Fox News. He's now with CNBC. Not a fan in general, but shout out to him for that summary. Brother Mac.
Well, first of all, let's get into a little bit of who Brian Flores is and talk about a man who has worked his craft to put himself in a position. So when you go back to 04, 05, he was literally an assistant scout. The following year, he became a pro scout, and I'm going to take my glasses because I want to get all of this in. So from 06 to 07, he became a pro scout. Then he joined the coaching staff of the Patriots. He was special team assistant from 2008 to 2009. In 2010, he became the assistant offensive coordinator and special teams coach. Then he became the defensive assistant in 2011, safeties coach 2012, 2015, linebackers coach 2016, 2018, and then in 2019 became coach of the Miami Dolphins. Now, with Belichick in that system, he won 4 Super Bowls with that team. Now, one of the things that was left out of here, which is an absolute poison pill, is let's go back to the situation with the New York Giants. When he was interviewing, he was contacted by the Giants, and I believe he was contacted by the Giants on the 18th via a Zoom meeting. Now, according to the Rooney Rule, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about how the Rooney Rule came in, but the Rooney Rule, which was the owner of the Steelers, said, look, you must interview at least 2 minority candidates whenever these head coaching positions come about. And there's a reason why that Rooney Rule came into play, and I'll cover that in a minute. So on the January 18th meeting, via Zoom, they then scheduled an in-person meeting, because according to the Rooney Rule, that interview has to be in person. So the interview for him was supposed to take place on January 27th. And here is the absolute bombshell, is that having worked under Bill Belichick, before January 27th occurred, Belichick, now keep in mind the coach that the Giants hired is Brian DeBoer. We're talking Brian Flores, Brian DeBoer. So Belichick sent a text message to Brian. He thought it was Brian DeBoer congratulating him before Brian Flores had the interview. He sent a text message to him saying, "Congratulations on your hire as the Giants." And then Brian Flores responded, "Wait a minute. What do you mean, congratulations? I haven't had my interview yet." And Belichick replied, "Oh, man, forgive me. I effed up." The point.
Wow.
So part of what Black coaches have said, and we've all said this, that in order to validate the process of the Rooney Rule, we're going to give the appearance that we're taking you serious. But in this case, before he ever interviewed, the Giants, at least Belichick knew that the Giants had already offered Brian DeBoer this job. So Brian Flores goes in on the 27th, conducts his interview. The next day, Brian DeBoer is named as the Giants head coach. Now, as it applies to the Dolphins, remember what he said, that when he was hired in 2019, the owner offered him $100,000 per loss because they wanted to get they wanted to move up in the draft to get to get this high-ranking
first round
quarterback in the draft. Now, the other thing that Flores said that the Dolphins owner did was he wanted him to go out and recruit a, quote, prominent quarterback. And Flores, understanding his ethics, that that's considered tampering, said, "No, I'm not going to do it." So then the owner of the Dolphins invited Flores to his yacht. And when he got to the yacht, when Flores arrived, he told him, "Oh, there's an impromptu visit by a prominent quarterback." Soon as he told Flores that, Flores left the yacht and said, "No, I'm not going to be a part of it." So then he continued on with his winnings. And so I need you to understand what his record was. The first year they hired him, he was 5-11 in 2019. The next year he went 10-6 in 2020. And then in 21, he went 9-8. So he had a combined record of 24-25. Now, as it applies to the Denver Broncos, when he went to interview with Denver to show you how they were just simply trying to validate the process and said, "Okay, we brought him in," Flores reports that when Elway and the executives came in, they were all drunk, and they admitted that they had been drinking, and he said that they showed up over an hour late. And of course, then the Broncos in 2019 hired a guy named Vic.
Brother Mac, you got all the receipts. You got the receipts on the receipts on the receipts.
Vic
let me ask a question before we'll finish that thought, because I have a couple questions. Go ahead.
So they hired Vic Fangio. So Fangio, the same time, 2019 to current, his record in Denver is 19 wins, 30 losses, versus Flores, 24 wins, 25 losses.
Right.
Now, understand that the NFL started in 1920. And at the time it started, it was called the American Professional Football Association. And that morphed over into the NFL. The first year.
All right, we got about 2 minutes here, Brother Mac. Go ahead.
Okay, the first year that the NFL started, there was a Black coach by the name of Fritz Pollard who coached the Akron Indians. And he coached them to the World Championship. So between that time and 1988, there was not one Black coach hired. And in 1988, the Raiders then hired Art Shell. Since 1988 until today, there's been less than 24 Black coaches. And today, in a league that is made up of 70% Black players,
that's right,
there's only one Black head coach. And so in the 100,
Brother Matt, let me hold you there real quick, only because I want to get Brother Marcus in on this part before we get to the top of the hour. That is reflective of America, right? And it's reflective of America, where you have white ownership, white management, black labor. And Brother Marcus, before we come up in the hour, and I know you got to get out of here, I just wanted to see your thoughts on all of this, because one, the ridiculousness, Brother Mac, you gave us so much there, the ridiculousness of Belichick's mistake. I just got to note that, isn't it ironic that all of this is going to come out because he don't know how to read who he's sending his text messages to, first and foremost. And then second of all, Marcus, I just want your thoughts on that labor aspect, because what Brother Mac is saying, historically, we are at a junction, go for it.
No, and this is where I think the players are really going to have to come out in solidarity, because, and really do, it's in their own self-interest. Because how does John Elway, right? He got, how many concussions did John Elway get? But he can still be able to go on and manage the team, and he's not seen to be having any cognitive ability decline, or anything like that. But because, I can't remember what the rule is called, but they have this the race rule.
Rooney,
and they
the Rooney rule.
Well, no, not for hiring. But for the how to look at mental health screenings, and there was a race rule saying that black people didn't have a good enough cognitive ability going into playing for them to have enough damage for us to actually pay for their mental health.
Right. It went into the calculation for the lawsuit, the settlement. Yes, thank you. There you go. Go ahead, Brother Marcus.
So I think 100%, I think college athletes and they're starting to get a little more hey, we're kind of getting messed over here, especially, when you talk about, the highest paid state employee is always the head coach of the state university. The players got to really start, organizing with themselves in a manner outside of what they're already doing. Like the NFL, yes, there is the players union, but if you compare it to what the NBA's union can do, NBA gets guaranteed money.